What's going on, guys? I have been asked to do a session breakdown for The Time Has Come. I haven't done one of these in a while. I thought that no one really cared about these things, but I'm going to do one. I'm actually kind of excited that people ask for it. Actually, one person asked for it, so I'm assuming that if there's one person that asked for it, there's other people that want to hear it too. This one's going to be kind of long. I created all the music for this one, so I not only just did the vocals, I started this one from the ground up. So here we go. So we can break this session down into 4 parts. I always start with the drums. So for the music, I started off with the drums. I decided to go with an EDM style of drums because this song is like electronic. It almost reminds me of like a Rob Zombie sort of track. So let's open up the drum folder. I'm going to make sure you can see it on here. So I did manual kick and snare. Let me move my face. I'm going to move my face. So move me over. Move me over here. There we go. So you can see the tracks. All right. So I did a manual kind of copy paste job. I just found a cool sample that I liked. EDM sample. It was real punchy, short. I liked it because I knew I was going to have a lot of double kick on there, and I wanted there to be a little kick, 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 kick every time you can hear it. I didn't do too much with the automation of the velocities. Well, there was no velocities, but the volume automation on it, and I really should, but I was just being lazy, and no one really cared. I mean, there's so much going on in it. It was like a really dense song, so I didn't think it really needed it. It's okay. It's pretty forgiving. So the next one's the snare. Again, I got it from an EDM kit. Nothing crazy. The only thing I did was I did some one band EQ automation on it just for like the intro. As you can see, like has this little lo-fi part. For the most part, it's just fully open. And then the same thing with the kick. I have a one band EQ automation for that. I was going to actually cut out that little intro part because I was just like, but whatever. Yeah, and then I have a trim plugin on it to moderate the volume just for the intro part. You see how it kind of swoops up. And then, so the rest of it is just sort of giving it that 16th note rhythmic feel. And so I have 2 loops going. I have a hi-hat loop, which is this. So and that just literally loops through the entire song. Except for like one part where it drops off. And then there's another loop that I used. It's this one in addition, so. That's from a plugin or virtual instrument called Damage in Native Instrument. So these 2 combined, I thought really filled out the sound. And like the other one, it goes the entire length of the song. And then I have my crashes. Again, these are just from EDM kits. And then I have an accent crash. Not too much. And then to give some flavor for transitions, like as you would put a drum fill, like right before a part, I have scratches. And then I have one more here. I didn't want to overdo the scratches. I just thought they were fun. They just add a little bit of extra high part. You can use a laser, you can use scratches, you could do tons of stuff. I like this way the scratches sound. I know some people think like, oh, as soon as you hear scratches, you think dubstep, but I mean, I really like the sound of it, so sue me. Okay, and we have the intro drums, which I bounced. Oh, okay, so I just took the Damage track and then lo-fied it. Here's the EQ settings I put for it. Just basically took everything out except for like this range. Gives it that telephone booth. So that's it for the drums. It all gets bused to this drum bus, in which I just use a limiter just to make sure there's no overages. So when it goes to the next master bus or the main, I call it a submix. Actually, I called it mid mix. Goes to a mid mix and then a submix, but so it goes to the next level. It doesn't red out. Let's move on to the bass. The bass, I got real lazy. So when I was going to originally play an acoustic, I mean, not acoustic bass, but play the bass myself. But I got lazy and I liked the sound of it so much. So it's this bass. So I don't know why it sounds like that. It's messing up. I don't know why it's messing up right now. I think my computer is like, I'm gonna see if like just freezing this. Sometimes like if there's like too many plugins like using stuff. There we go. So when I started figuring out the songs, I had to really sort of like listen to it and like figure out what everything was doing. So this is the kind of the first bass part I kind of figured out because it was really tough. Well, not really tough. It was the most intricate. The rest is just like da 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 da. So I did this one, and then I started like really liking the sound of it. So this is on Massive. It's just a preset. Let me open up Massive. It's called Skrillex Zomboy Growl. Skrillex Zomboy Growl. And I like the fact that it had a nice low end. It was like really consistent. And then it had the high end that just kind of sort of popped through. So it really helped the guitars and just filled out tons of sound. And I also like the glide settings on it. I really didn't even touch this plugins at all. And so, yeah, I just let that go. It's just going to the bass submix and with another limiter. So that's it for bass. I'm going to freeze that track so we don't have any more hiccups during this. I know I need to upgrade my computer. I definitely need to do it before Windows 11. Well, before Windows 10 gets phased out. But I think I got like one more year. All right, let's move on to the guitars. The guitars I played myself. I can play guitar. Limited amount, not like crazy. I can't do like crazy doodlies and leads, but I can play enough rhythms. So the guitars are just using, just here. Okay, so I'm using the TH. I don't even know how to. It's called STHU from Slate. It's just called the plugin or the preset I'm using is Burnosphere Rhythm. And then for this one, the other side, I think I'm using the same thing. I don't know why I can't see it. Yeah, Burnosphere. Okay, I'm using the exact same thing. It's called, Burnosphere Solo. And I had to disable the reverb and delay on this one. Anyway, it's just that going left and right, panned hard. And then to get it to where I really like the sound of it, I use the Slate MOTT. This really got me the sound I was looking for because without it, it sounds really weak. But added, it's like magic. This plugin's crack, man. I would say to get it, but don't get it. I mean, if you want to get into drugs, this is the audio plugin version of drugs. because it's so good. It's definitely worth it. This is one that I'm like 1000%. I advise you to buy. And then I had the limiter, just a regular old limiter. That's it for guitars. Let's move along. And the synth. The synth, there's tons of tracks. I don't think I'm going to go into. Okay, actually, no, there's only 4. So we have intros, and so we have a like cool, like mysterious stuff. But thankfully, it's just like a lot of repetition. Like this song is a big copy paste job. Like what I mean by that is like each part it's just basically the half of the song doubled, and so you get the enjoyment of just copying and pasting the first half onto the second half, and a lot of work is done for you. So I did some listening to the original track, and I tried my best to match it, but sometimes like that is not the best thing to do because you're wasting your time. I mean, trying to find the exact same thing. If say, for example, you find the exact same patch that you found, like what are you really making? So I tried to find something in the ballpark that I thought complemented the song. Maybe not exactly what they were doing, but something towards it pleased my taste. I thought it sounded cool. I mean, I want to add something to the song too, you know? So that's what I thought I did. So for the intro, for the first, I'm using I just found some sort of mysterious pad in Absinthe 5. It's like something I would use from a movie cue or something. And this is another one, some spooky pad. This is another thing that I would use for like a musical cue and all that. And this is from Spitfire, Albion 1. This was like the most expensive instrument plugin that I purchased, and it was worth it. If you are looking to buy, like really invest in a good library, the Spitfire stuff I think is top notch. And not only does it have like really realistic like strings and instruments, they go really hard on the creative stuff too. So that's my go-to for like really high quality pads. And so they have like an accent lead, and I use my trusty Expand. I love Expand because I don't think anyone uses it because everyone just like writes it off. I love it. Oh, and that has yeah, this part just shows up once in a while. This is another Expand one. Sometimes you don't need fancy, expensive plugins. This one's free. It comes with Pro Tools. I love it because it's super lightweight. Like you could have tons of instances of it. It's not the highest quality stuff, but if you're looking for like electronic stuff and you know how to like fiddle with it, the biggest problem I have with it is some of the lack of controls. But I do love it for the exact same thing. The lack of controls gives you less options, and you sort of have to just sort of deal with it. Gets you working faster. Anyway, that's it for the synth. And I just send everything to the synth bus, which has another limiter. And we're going to move on to the vocals. Now let me freeze those. How come I can't freeze it? Oh, there we go. I guess I didn't see it first time. I'm freezing it just so my computer acts a little bit better. I must have something else that's... Oh, it doesn't like that I'm using like OBS and all that, so that's why. Because when I was like mixing this session, I had no problems. All right, the vocals. So this one's pretty simple. It's just a lead vocal. And so the original track, I thought it was kind of mundane. Like I thought that it was just a bunch of tough guy talking, you know, because if you listen to it, it's just like, blah, 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 I'm going to do stuff to you. I'm going to punch you in the face. But it was pretty much the same thing. Like there's a guy talking with a cool radio voice, and that's it. So I wanted to add some singing. I tried to take it up an octave, just add like melodic enhancements to it without going too far away from the track. And I think I did a good job with it. And so So for the lead vocal, that's the talking guy. This guy's just the talky guy. And there's another talky guy. and they just do cool stuff. And so we don't need to listen to it. So for the plugins for this guy, what I really wanted to do is get it in your face. I first rolled off the pretty fairly high on one band EQ, and then after that I used multi-band limiter. And so I step on the mids pretty hard, but I also, I think, yeah, I also raise them up quite a bit. And then I have you know, gain in here, light compression here. I do like a fast attack, fast release here, but in the low mids, I like to do a fast attack, but a long release, just so it kind of like clamps on it lower, it just like really steps on it. So there's not a lot of fluctuation, because I don't want a lot of fluctuations. I just want it to be pinned down the entire time. And then I just have it raised here just for the air, clarity and air. And then to make it sound cool and like radio-y, I added the Devil Lock from Sound Toys. And I think this is the best sounding distortion for vocals. You can use guitar amp, you can use just distortion, but it sounds like to my ear, it sounds too abrasive. It sounds too chunky. This one sounds much smoother. And I like the darkness knob. You can add some darkness if it gets too crazy, and you can mix it in. It's just a really, this one's sort of made for vocals. So if you're looking for a distortion for vocals, I'm going to say that Sound Toys Devil Lock, the paid version or the advanced, okay, it's called deluxe version. You want to get the deluxe version. There's ways to mix it in using the lower version, but you would have to like put it on an aux and then mix it in. This is so you can have it straight on the channel. I like that. And then I have a long throw delay automation on it. So the long delay is going, I'm going to move the long delay down here. So you can hear the, and so for that delay, I'm just using a delay, and it's a, half note. It's half note with some feedback on it. And I have it rolled off to about 1.5. After that, I have more Devil Lock. So I'm actually putting distortion on the delay just so it cuts through. And it worked out really well because this track is so dense, it's so crazy. It's not crazy, it's just, there's a lot of it's just nonstop. There's just like so much going on. Like that delay needed to cut through. The only way I got it to cut through without raising the volume was to add distortion. And then finally I have this EQ just to further like radio it. That's like the telephone EQ curve. So that's it for that. That tough guy stuff goes through all through the song. Nothing too magical besides that. All right, let's go into the high vocals. This is the parts where, okay, let's go up. I have a reverse vocal here. So I have a reverse, pretty standard. Again, I'm using Devil Lock in there just so it cut through, and then a one band, and I just rolled it up until I thought it worked. Because you don't really want your reverbs to put any bass response in there because then the vocals that come in don't have any sort of impact. So, sorry. All right. And then the next thing I have is Creepy Vox. I don't know what Creepy Vox is. Oh, I'm using Ovox. Ovox is so fun. So that's straight to hell. I don't even know. It didn't really even come through in the mix. Ovox is like one of the funnest plugins I own. And it just mangles audio, vocals especially, but you can do it on any audio. And you can do like voice effects, like I have it on Megatron, I think. I don't want to like, actually, I'm not going to fool with it because I should have like saved this on a different thing. Anyway, you can do some cool stuff with it just with using presets on this. Yeah, so it just it turns this into this. Yeah, thought it sounded cool. The next one is reverse. Okay, there's another reverse vocal. I don't know why. I have no idea why it needed 2 tracks. I think I just lost track of tracks. Okay, finally the high vocals. Okay, so let's see. We have the everything up to 100 rolled off. I have multi-band compression, which is doing the same thing I did before, stepping on this. And since I used some aggro stuff, I didn't go as crazy on... Actually, I rolled off some of the highs because it got harsh up there, and I stepped on it a little bit more. Stepped on meaning like I compressed it a little bit more. And I didn't like use as much of this top end because it just doesn't need it because, yeah. And then I throw on Slate MOTT, vocal warm preset. I just flipped around presets until I liked the way it sounded, and I listened to it in the mix. I didn't solo it. And then I found the preset that I like. I used murder melodies for the widening. Like I got that spread all the way because when I wanted this part to come in, I wanted to be like woo, and I didn't want to have to like sing 3 parts. I didn't want to sing a left and a right and a center. So I was just like I was lazy. So I'm like, okay, just gonna have the spread all the way. This one, the spread sounds great, and I think I just have a little bit of the chorus. It's called an ensemble, and this plugin is so neat. I don't use it enough. And then I just have trim automation. So if you're looking for tips, what I would recommend is you never automate your master volume. Not the master volume, but the track volume. Don't automate the track volume. Always use a plugin that controls volume to automate your volume so that you can always have control of the volume. See, like what I mean? Like you can have control of the main volume up and down, like this track volume. So it's 2, and I can bring it down to 6, but it doesn't affect this automation. Because if you start doing the track volume automation, then your hands are tied. You can't adjust the volume unless you like go all the way to the end of the track and then like use some trickery to like adjust all of them down. And that's just messy. It'll save your brain. It's much better. Okay, so I have a double of this. And this is just just a dry track to help get clarity. I've used Vocaline for this. Vocaline is a plugin that automatically like detects the peaks and valleys of a track, and then if you compare it to another track, it'll automatically process it to be exact match of the track you're analyzing. I highly recommend that. This is also just doing basic multi-band compression, and then I think this is just using Vocals Warm on MOTT. MOTT is the most addictive plugin known to man. I love it and hate it at the same time. Once you put it on, you don't want to take it off. I'm going to move my delay back up here so you can see that this is also using the long delay. So this is also using a quarter note delay, a short delay. I called it a short delay, but a quarter note delay. And I don't use any automation. It's just running the whole time. I found that to be fine. I just made sure that it's like cut off. It's like 1 point. I get sloppy with it, so I should be like. I try to like get it. When you're setting up a delay and you're just setting it, forget it, like, and if you're doing it for vocals, like at least try to get it out of the 2K range, because that's where you're going to start competing for like clarity of what you're saying, the intelligibility. So at least try to get it around 1 if you're going to roll things off. And you should be rolling things off unless you're like going for a specific, I don't know, effect or something. But you should at least get it out of the 2K. And so in the original, that was down an octave. It's another speaking part, and he's like, cool guy stuff. And I was just like, okay, let's just change it up. And I wanted this to be more than a copy paste job. So I wrote it up, added harmonies. I did some chops, because I love those. Oops. I love the stutter stuff. I know I don't even know if it's still in style. I mean, at this point, I just like to do. I could do a like to hear. And I'm going to be real honest. This last scream, the devil cried. Like I like did a quick volume automation to fade it out because I didn't want it to hear because it was like a really bad scream. And it's not even a scream. It's like, you know, like my voice. I couldn't just get it. Couldn't get it to work. So I decided to like, I put some distortion on it and to hide my shortcomings. Sometimes just your screen box doesn't want to work. So if it doesn't work for you, you know, when you're doing a long, because listen, I wanted to give like the impression like I'm just like you know, but you know you're zooming out because the guy's too crazy in your face, so you know he's screaming off in the background. But it was really I was just trying to hide the fact that it was a bad scream. Oh yeah, I added this. Ooh. That was hard to hold out. Okay, so that's it for the vocals. It goes to a bus with another limiter. All right, finally. Finally, we're on to the mixing stage. Well, the bus mixing stage. So everything is going to something called a mid mix, and I have it to a mid mix. And on my mid mix is where I will do stuff like effects that affect the entire track. So if I want to do an effect like I'm going to do like an EQ sweep or maybe a whole track stutter or anything that's affecting the entire track, that's where I'm going to do it. And I didn't have it on this track. And then the mid mix goes to a submix. The submix is rolling off everything below 40K just to make sure that there's nothing that's going to nothing that's going to like trigger my compressors after this. And you'd be like impressed. You'd be surprised like how like frequencies down there can actually really mess up and falsely trigger your compressors where you think like why is it so active when it doesn't need to be. So that's why I do that. I am running this all through tape using the virtual tape machine. I love the tape machine because like you can hit it super hard and if it starts to distort, it's like listen to it. If it sounds awesome, it sounds awesome, and I love it. See, listen to it without. I'm going to turn it on now. Oh, here, right there. To me, like it sounds like it almost sounds like you like took the lid off of it, like it was in a jar, and then you took the lid off. All right, now I'm using another multiband just to sort of. So my goal when doing a multiband limiter on the master track is to one control the lows and make sure they're stepped on hard. Because I want them to be really consistent. I don't want them to get out of control. I don't want them to outshine the higher end stuff, but I don't want them to pump. So you just have to fiddle with how much the threshold and then the attack and the release and make sure that things are sounding great. And then bypassing to make sure that you're making positive changes. Here's without. Here's with. Without, and then with, right? That's another thing that like opens like another lid, like lifts off another lid. Finally, I'm using the Slate mastering plugin, which is like a little bit of compression. I raise the gain And then just make sure that when I'm looking at this RMS meter here, I don't know if you can see it. So right here, my RMS is around 9. I aim for like anywhere between like a 10 to a 6. And so this one's shooting around 9, and I'm happy with that. And you can see this needle's like barely moving. Okay, then finally, after the end, it goes to the master mix, which is right here. So I mix on headphones. Since I got the Slate VSX, I only use this. I'm getting the best mixes of my life because of it. And I can do this like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning when the kids are asleep. And what's great about this, and I've said it many times, is that you can play your mix. So if I want to hear what my mix sounds like in an SUV, I can do that. Or a little boom box. Apple AirPods. Like, that is the most expensive product that I am going to say, like, that's a must buy if you are ever wanting to mix in headphones and don't want to wake up the neighbors or your family. It's expensive, but it's totally worth it. You're going to get the best mixes of your life if you're having problems mixing. Because what you can do is you can take each room, and I promise I'm not endorsed. I wish I was endorsed, because then I'd get free shit from Slate. But what you can do is you can like check your mix on every single instance of that, and you can start hearing like, oh, well, my vocals are a little harsh in this room, tiny bit down. Oh, my hi-hats are too loud on the boombox, tiny bit down. Let me go back to where it sounded good. Oh, it didn't really ruin it. Okay, great. So you just like, you're checking your mixes in all these different environments. I just listened to this last song in the car that I did. This song in the car from the YouTube video. And I was just like, man, great listen. I never listened to it in the car before, but it was pretty much exactly like what I got here. So that's pretty much it for this session breakdown. I know it's a long one, and I hope that helps. And I'll check you guys later. Bye-bye.